r/ask Reddit. What is the worst thing you've overheard while pretending to be asleep? Something like she's too old for this. I'm not going to carry her up to bed anymore. And that was the last time I was magically transported from the living room couch to my bedroom. This is going to be me. Really bad back and my kid is at the top of the growth charts. He's a toddler and some days it's already a struggle for me. Then I see up the thread people being judgy about people who didn't want to be parents and not giving a shit, and it just makes me sad to think about when I won't be able to do it anymore. I was a camp counselor. 2 girls very much like to make hot or not lists. One of them suggested a male counselor was hot, and the other said he was saying mean things about me behind my back, which made him not hot. Hurt to hear that from my campers, but glad they supported me. Or what, that's actually sweet. Good on them. Old roommates planning to kick me out. Squandered your advantage. Should have used your secret knowledge to get the drop on them and kick them out first. I'm not fired, you're fired. That I was dying with meningitis, but jokes on the doctors, I'm still kicking. You ever live just to flex on the haters? Yeah, did it to the same doctor twice now. 3rd time lucky. My family was staying at a friend's house and had to share a room. My dad comes to bed hammered and says to my mum something along the lines of, "Does it impress you that I'm this drunk and can still perform?" I actually wanted to die. Wow, reading this gave me bystander desire for death. Glad you made it through that one. No wonder people at school think he's gay. My stepmom. Are you gay? No, but 8-year-old me didn't know that. Did that make you question your sexuality? No, but it made me be a lot less physical with my male best friend. Because what used to be fun wrestling play fight stuff now made me think, will this make people think I'm gay? My mom trying to calm my dad down out of a suicidal fit. My brother and I had been really bad that day, and when he grounded us, we both told him that we hated him and wanted him to go away. He didn't do anything wrong. My brother and I were just a couple of immature little dunts. I'm pretty sure blackout drunk at this point, which I had never seen and still haven't saw since then, walked into our room that night and I pretended to fall asleep. Then he just started these deep, haunting sobs that I'll probably never forget. He stumbled outside and we could hear him begging my mom to let him die and sobbing, "All I've ever wanted in my entire life was to be a better dad than mine." I was only 11 or so, but it ducking destroyed my heart. I think that's the time I learned that emotional pain can actually physically hurt. I was hunched over in my bed bawling my eyes out and on the verge of throwing up. I also felt like an a-hole for crying over what we said. My brother was thankfully able to sleep through it all. I think about that once every 2 weeks or so, and I always message him to tell him I love him when I do. I hope he forgot about it. But being a dad myself now, I don't think it's something you totally forget. It might not hurt like it did in the moment, but I don't think you forget. Like most heartbreaking things, I guess. This hurt my soul. Did you ever apologize to him etc? Well, this made me cry. I lost my dad 2 years ago and I acted like a total dunt to him when I was a teenager. I hate myself and my teenage years. My mom and aunt talking, thinking 10-year-old me was asleep. Aunt, little runs and gooses is so cute. Mom, no, he's not very good looking at all. Had the same experience, but the difference was that I wasn't asleep and my mom said that in front of me. Parents talking about plans for when they were going to have sex. What were the plans? Semicolon. My dad coming home from work at lunchtime the next day to do it while we kids would be at school. When I got back from school that day, I couldn't look my parents in the eyes. My sister's soon-to-be fiancé wanking while saying her name. At least he wasn't saying someone else's name. Solid commitment to wank over your partner. That's disgusting and a little wholesome at the same time. Not me, but my wife heard her boyfriend having sex with her best friend. This was obviously long before we met. My sister got drunk and I heard a loud thud and she blacked out. 2 of her friends and my mom and dad were shouting at each other and they were saying to shut up cause they didn't want to wake me up, and they were all crying thinking she was dead, and I couldn't tell my sister I was happy she didn't die. Now I appreciate seeing her every week. I think she died. Shut up, you're gonna wake up Fox fails. Sounds like the right priority, lol. My dad and stepmom was having a foursome with a couple of their friends. We were at a summer house and they did it in the living room. I felt so uncomfortable eating breakfast the next day. Damn bro, I'd be uncomfortable too. Would be worse if the other couple were his mom and stepdad. Probably the funniest was on a camping trip with the boys. I have sleep apnea and use a CPAP machine. I overheard a couple of my mates talking about smoking a joint and hotboxing me through the air intake of my CPAP machine. When I was a wee tot, I pretended to be asleep in the family room so I wouldn't have to actually go to bed, and once my parents were distracted, I could keep watching TV. I then got to hear my dad proposition my mom for couch sex. It's been many years so I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of hop on pop. Haha, OMG, that's horrifying. Sleeping over at a friend's house when I was 14. All of us on the floor in living room. Couldn't sleep. Two of my friends, guy and girl directly next to me, start doing freaky things to each other. I was extremely shy and a couple of years younger than them, so I stayed quiet and hoped they'd stop. Had to listen to them for an hour while she made weird ass moaning squeaky noises and he was singing, in a weird slightly whispery singy voice, Matchbox 20 songs to her while he did whatever he was doing. That was last time I slept over at a friend's house. I wasn't pretending to be asleep per se, but I was well on my way. I was under anesthesia and was fading in and out. I remember closing my eyes to help move things along. I was in a lot of pain because my appendix ruptured. This happened years ago, so I can't remember all of the details. Unfortunately, I remember being moved over to an operating table, and they told me to take my shirt off. I think I heard someone go, "What do you think would happen if I poked her belly button right now?" I was an outie prior to having an appendectomy. They went through my belly button, so that is no longer the case. Anyway, someone, very quickly, responded, "Dude, that is not funny. Remember what happened the last time?" It's possible I was starting to dream, but I remember it making me feel a mix of amusement and anxiety. I really need to know what happened last time. On a class trip, I heard a girl talk badly about me to the other girls in my room, saying I was a retard and too dumb to stand up for myself. She said the only reason she didn't bully me out of the school was because she needed me to help her with my homework. Then my best friend stood up for me. She said that I wasn't dumb and just a bit shy, and then told her to F off. My roommate and her FWB having loud, dirty talk sex. I just had my wisdom teeth out and I think they assumed I was passed out on pain meds. When I was around 8 years old, I was supposed to be asleep, but I snuck downstairs to get milk or something. I heard talking going on downstairs, so I stood still and listened. My mom was talking to my brother about how much of a problem I was and how she hated me. She always liked my brother more. I just silently crept back upstairs and cried myself to sleep. Good times. I wasn't pretending to be asleep so much as they assumed I was asleep. My in-laws thought I was still napping after dropping my kid off at school, and they started to shit talk me. They said I was a terrible mom. I didn't care about my kids at all and they better buy a cake because I would rather sleep all day than make him a cake. It was his birthday and my god, it was only 10 AM. It doesn't take that long to make and frost a cake for him. Anyways, I cried in my room for 2 hours before they left to buy groceries, i.e. drink themselves into a stupor, before I got up and made the cake and birthday dinner my child asked for. I didn't tell my husband what they said until a week later because I didn't want to ruin his or my child's day. Had a bunk bed in college and one night my girlfriend and I woke up to my roommate banging some chick on the top bunk. My girlfriend asked me what we should do and I just mumbled just go back to sleep because I figured saying something to them at the moment would make things much more awkward. He still doesn't know. Bang your girl to assert dominance. This is the correct response. Roommate's boyfriend and his friend came into my room when they thought I was asleep. It was warm and I was sleeping naked with minimal blanket coverage. I froze and pretended to sleep. They proceeded to talk about my body and how it was anyone's type. Also how easily it was to drug ladies these days. Oh, and also the friend talked about how easy it would be to sell my boyfriend's boat motor that he had stored in the room. Yeah, so they were kicked out and friend became an ex-friend because she was pissed I let my boyfriend kick them out. My older brother in the next room when he snuck a girl in. They had sex for about a minute and then I could hear him apologizing for about 20. May not be the worst ever, but it's definitely the funniest. I was in trade school in a different city than my hometown, so I was staying at my in-laws' home. My wife's dad was away for the weekend and I noticed her mom was wearing fancy dresses. She's a very beautiful woman, often mistaken for my wife's sister. She also seemed extra giddy before she would go out for the evenings. On the evening my father-in-law got home, I was in my room studying when I heard him yell at the top of his lungs, "So you F the guy." I can only assume she felt guilty and told him since it was soon after he go home. Anyways, he was yelling at her for most of the night and I heard lots of crying from both of them. I heard some pretty terrible things. They are both very nice people and it was sad to hear them on their worst night. They've stayed together and it looks like they are fighting to make their marriage work. My father-in-law was very cold, distant, and angry for a couple of years, but they seem to be warm towards each other again. Also, the following morning they apologized for all the noise they made and I told them I was just listening to music. Found out my dad's best friend died. They have been friends since they were literally 5 years old, went to the same schools, stayed best friends for 50 years. When he became an alcoholic and cut off contact with everybody, my dad still reached out to him multiple times even though he obviously wasn't ready. He eventually got off the drink and they became really close again and were calling each other every day. I woke up to the phone ringing and my dad looking at it and immediately saying to my mom, "Oh God, I think he's dead." He knew that she only called when something bad was up and he had been hospitalized multiple times because of his drinking. I remember saying on a post years ago that I dread to think of the day that his best friend died because I knew it was coming soon because of his past. My dad is old and is the type of guy who just wants a chat, and I know a lot of people he talks to don't want to do that. Anyway, I heard it all unfold and pretended to sleep because I just did not know what to say. I couldn't imagine losing a best friend for that long. I sat in my bed for hours thinking about it but just laying still. I didn't fully process it until I went to work and I spent nearly 2 hours crying in the toilets. That was the only time I cried in my adult life. When I was a kid, I used to be scared of monsters or something creeping up on me in my sleep, so I would always ask my dad to check on me before he went to bed. It made me feel more comfortable. One night, I was still awake when I heard him coming up the stairs, and I wasn't supposed to be awake and knew I would get in trouble if he saw me, so I pretended to be asleep. He came into my room and just kinda stared at me for a few seconds, then came up close to my bed, lifted the blanket up, farted under it, turned around and left. It's been at least 15 years and I remember that night vividly. He vehemently denies it to this day, but I know what happened. Parents discussing the gift that Santa had got for me for Christmas. Santa doesn't have time traveling powers. He gives the parents the gifts early to have them wrap them for him, cause the elves can't keep up with all the kids in the world. Same thing with the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny. They have used parents as middlemen for decades. While in kindergarten, I heard the teacher talking on her phone and saying that she doesn't feel comfortable having an Indian kid in her class. At the time I didn't understand why she hated me, but now I know. My mom and I were sharing a hotel room on a trip and unfortunately only had one bed, so we had to share that too. As I was trying to fall asleep, I kept hearing the text tone from my mom's phone going off and her giggling. My parents hate each other, so I knew it wasn't my dad she was texting with. Curious, I opened my eyes just a little bit to see that she was flirting with other men while on a trip with her family, and I was in fact staring at a dong pic. I couldn't really go back to sleep after that. My father telling my mother that sometimes he just wanted to kill me. I was 5 years old when I overheard this. Being that my dad was an alcoholic and full of rage, I believed him and lived my entire childhood believing he was going to kill me. My friend and her boyfriend having sex while we were staying in a hotel room together. There were 2 beds and my boyfriend and I were on the other one. She was so drunk and her boyfriend was like, "No, stop, they'll hear us." No, but he finally gave in. I kinda gave her shit about it later though. She later on ducked a different guy in my bed that same year during a party. We don't speak anymore. I pretended to sleep through the doctor sitting at my kitchen table telling my dad he had stage 3 cancer. I was 9. He's totally fine now, but it really sucked at the time. When I was a kid, I was pretending to sleep in the car. I was in the back seat, next to my older sister. I was probably 6 or 7, so she would have been around 13. She let out a raunchy, all windows down, gag the rest of the car sort of fart. It was loud, but we were both in the back. She immediately blames it on me farting in my sleep. The whole car laughs and rolls down their windows, and I stayed asleep. No one to this day knows that it was her, and she still thinks she got away with it. I got you, sis. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.